Here now is Alaska Senator, still in the military, Dan Sullivan himself, who took part in the hearings and was quite incensed and on point. Senator, what was your takeaway today?
Well, look, Brian, you summed it up really well. There's two main takeaways here. First of all, this foreign policy fiasco is solely the responsibility of one person, Joe Biden. He was told by his generals what would happen if he removed the troops that were in Afghanistan, and that came to pass, and you just showed that. The second one is that the president has not been leveling with the American people at all during this fiasco. We went through a number of things where I pressed the witnesses today on things that the president had said. You mentioned a number of them. The president said that his generals recommended that there should be no forces in Afghanistan. That was not true. The president said that al-Qaeda was gone from Afghanistan. That was not true. The president said that our military would stay until all Americans were out of the country. That was not true. And Brian, this is the big one. The president continues to say this fiasco was, quote, an extraordinary success. I asked General Milley that. General Milley, in the hearing today, called it a strategic failure. So look, these lies, these are not some kind of minor misstatements. These were huge fabrications at the heart of this foreign policy fiasco, life and death deceptions that we finally were confirming in the hearing today.
Senator, you couldn't have known because you were busy, but Jen Psaki was asked, who were the generals that advised the president to pull out? Since he said he got both reports from both sides. She could not name one. And the other story was General Milley himself. He was, he was chronicled in a few books saying that he wanted to keep troops there and he thought it was a bad move to leave. But he also you were asked him about his call with his counterpart in China. Listen.
General Milley, do you think if the Chinese Communist Party decided to invade Taiwan, would their military leadership call and give you a heads up? Do you honestly think that?
I know I'd call him and ask him.
No, I'm asking the other question.
I would call him and ask him outright.
Do you think he'd give you a heads up?
I think
on the invasion of Taiwan.
I think an invasion of Taiwan would be a fairly obvious thing to pick up on.
Senator, he didn't answer your question, but what was your question based on?
Well, look, it's an obvious point, right? And I made it clear in the hearing. There's no way that a Chinese PLA leader would do that. Xi Jinping would have him shot if somehow he gave American generals a heads up on an invasion of Taiwan. So I was pressing this issue because it's a very important issue that was in the book that's been quoted in the papers that said that General Milley promised to actually do that. But as he also said in his testimony, there was absolutely no indication whatsoever that our former President Trump was going to start any war. So I was pressing this issue because it's a really important one. Right now, the book says one thing that was in the Washington Post. General Milley says something else. But I think it's really important, as we're going to continue to do oversight, to get to the bottom of this, and also, importantly, the bottom of the issues that were front and center in the hearing today on Afghanistan and Joe Biden's foreign policy fiasco and how he owns it.
He crushed the credibility of America. Now we got to earn it back because of one man's decision. That's clear. Also, it's just incomprehensible that General Milley would admit cooperating with peril by Bob Woodward. Frankly, we did win this election with Michael Bender, and I alone can fix it by Phil Rucker and another author. Why is he, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, worried about Bob Woodward's book sales? It makes no sense. That is unacceptable and inexcusable. But, Senator, I know not only you were senator, you're also serving in the military, and I know how passionate you are about this because a lot of great men and women fought over there, and they deserved a better verdict. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Brian.